I had my first near-death experience when I was a child, perhaps 2 or 3. This would be about 1953. It involved me drowning. My memories of it were of seeing my body below me. I remember seeing a bright, warm, loving orb above me. I panicked Dad and Mom below. I didn't know it was anything to talk about and no one would have believed me. It never was a thing I felt I had to relate. Then in 1971, I had been knifed with a stiletto that severed an artery above my liver. I remember looking up and seeing a light. I then looked down at my body and then I was confronted by at least 2 beings. They were human in appearance and they seemed to float in midair. I realized I was far above my body and not in any earthly space. The beings tried to keep me from going to the light. I don't know why. They just seemed terrified and didn't want me to go. But I did. I shot up like an arrow through what can only be described as a tunnel. I saw the tunnel as a peripheral blur of stars and I saw a loving light before me. Then I stopped. I was there with this orb of glowing love and understanding. It didn't seem foreign to me. It was not frightening. It was totally assuring and there was no feeling of anything but my awe and the love and knowledge and wisdom this orb projected. In size, it would be not like looking at the sun, but looking at the earth when you were on it. It was immense and total, and its power was love. I felt a presence next to me, a man. And he asked if I was ready for my life review. I said yes. All of this not a verbal thing, but just a knowledge. Then I saw something like an whole-scale train set below, a city. I went to this city and I went through my life. I went through every moment and every feeling. I was not afraid as I was still in the light. I talked with the man about my life, but I do not remember any specifics. I then remember standing, as it were, in the light of the orb of love. I felt the goodness and love and knowledge of it. My mind was in a state of deep concentration of thought. I then went to 12 beings of greater knowledge. They were in front of me and stood in a row. They were not human. They had no feelings of anything like judgment or authority, but seemed strong in themselves. They seemed taller than I did and they wore silver white robes. They had white skin, large heads and large eyes. I do not remember them having a mouth. Above them was a spirit. It was like a star as we see one from Earth, but in size it appeared the same size as the heads of the beings. The spirit went to my left and hovered above the first being. I remember it was like a video of knowledge springing from the being's hands, which were held in front of them. Each being had something to relate. They opened the knowledge they had when the spirit moved above them. The last told me what I could do if I came back and the significance of it. I only remember seeing young man with his head back in pain as if his neck was injured. I said, "Oh, Aaron, my son." They said, "No, not that son." And I realized whom they meant. In 1978, my only other child was born as son. Then I made the decision to come back to Earth. And I remember it was such a hard decision. It was so difficult because everything there was so beautiful and there was so much love. I had the feeling of free will, yet a feeling of duty was present, of obligation. And the second I realized that I shot back into my body.
Around 1950, a distant relative was in hospital in Inverness. It was a Sunday and my father went to visit John, to be told that he had died that morning at a certain time. The hospital authorities asked Dad if he would inform the next of kin, the deceased's sister Kate and her husband, who were sheep farmers living in a relatively remote part of Easter Ross and not on the telephone. Dad and I drove the 20 or so miles and up a hill track to the farmhouse, to be met by Kate, who said, "Hey, I know why you've come." I heard him calling me saying, "Hey Kate, Kate," as he passed over. She was quite matter-of-fact about it and gave us the time of death, which was exactly the same as that recorded by the hospital. I found it an amazing experience and have never forgotten it, nor will I ever. I was about 17 at the time.
When I awoke, the room was pitch dark, but above Dad's bed was a flame licking the top of the wall against the ceiling, a broken bar. As I looked, I saw a plume of smoke rising, like the vapor that rises from a snuffed-out candle, but on a bigger scaly broken bar. It was being thrown off by a single blade of phosphorus light. A broken bar. It hung above Dad's bed, about 18 inches or so long, and was indescribably beautiful. A broken bar, it seemed to express perfect love and peace. Eventually I switched on the light. The light vanished and the room was the same as always on a November morning, cold and cheerless, with no sound of breathing from Dad's bed. His body was still warm. Suddenly there was the most brilliant light shining from my husband's chest, and as this light lifted upwards there was the most beautiful music and singing voices. My own chest seemed filled with infinite joy and my heart felt as if it was lifting to join this light and music. Suddenly there was a hand on my shoulder and a nurse said, "Hey, I'm sorry, love. He has just gone." I lost sight of the light and music. I felt so bereft at being left behind.
If you like stories like these, please support this channel by leaving a comment, liking, subscribing, and/or sharing. Please comment which story you found the most interesting. Thank you for your time today.